I didn't test no battery.
No, didn't you change the battery not long ago? On me or now, like on the.
Oh, they've been so long ago.
Yeah, all I did was moved it.
I think you gotta do your battery.
Yeah.
No, the hand is kicking, it wants to move.
That's cause the battery's low.
Yeah. That's like each battery is like it won't know the phone.
Let me play with it while Tim's talking.
Anyway, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Got technical difficulties with the clock here this morning, and we'll get started in just a second.
It doesn't wanna lose that hour.
Johnny, bring your pen, sit down.
I didn't want to move that hour this morning.
Don't rush me, I'm gonna trip.
You need to get on with the lesson. Show me you what you did.
Our lesson is from John chapter 6, and the title is Share Abundance. And we saw plenty of them. Come on in.
I'm sorry we're late.
It's all right.
You much later than I was.
It's not late until 2 and then it's too late.
I may be too late then. You had to come drag me up.
Well, we can do that.
Next time.
Well, all right, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And our lesson is about shared abundance. And we had plenty of abundance here Friday. We had abundance of everything. And abundance of health. And abundance of people. Well, I'll put a sign up out front. Thank y'all for supporting our barbecue. Because we had a good crowd, and I believe we probably close to what we've been in the past, I think, weren't we?
Yeah, we delivered. We sent out, most everybody here was doing that. Let's see. We sent out 603 plates, 44 cups, and 29 chicken plates in two hours.
That's
That's working fast.
good
That
to
includes
do.
your Sanford Millen. Yeah. So a little bit ahead of 2019.
Well, I know the line outside to come pick up, kept steady. I had a lot of people just walk in, so I think we can say that we had an abundance.
If you improve this year's supper, dinner, whatever we want to call it, you better start working on it now.
I agree.
I believe it runs smoother, maybe not quite as many as we had a few years ago. And Donald Rose needs to find out where Andrews Avenue is.
I found out when I got back, Butler said, do you know where I had to go?
Oh, you got lost?
Jackie said he knew
I didn't
where
know.
that was.
He didn't realize it was that far on down.
Where'd you go?
Pete Smith.
He's almost hid back there. Isn't he?
Okay, in the mall at 39 and 95.
What do they call that mall? The 39 Shopping Center.
Something like that. And it's on both sides of the road, so it's, yeah.
Well, I should let you go.
That's where,
Everyone knows where it is.
that's where Params is and where the license plate agency is, but every time I go in there, I see something I ain't seen before. Didn't know it was tucked back up in there. There's a lot of stores back in there. But anyway, the scripture for this lesson comes from Jesus' feeding of the 5,000, with the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. John gives a little bit different story than the other 3 gospels do, and that's confusing sometimes. You have these 4 different people telling what's supposed to be the same story, and there are different details, so you have to kind of. It makes it a little bit harder for me to figure out what is the most important thing in there. But as we know the story, and I ain't gonna spend a lot of time on it, they had a crowd that Jesus had, he had done a bunch of miracles and stuff, some healing people and whatnot, and so the crowd was following him, and the crowd stayed till late in the day, and so they didn't have no food to eat, and the disciples and Jesus were wondering where we going to feed all this. Jesus wasn't wondering, but the disciples were wondering how we going to feed all these people. And, you know, we ain't got no money to buy it, and the town ain't got enough food for all of them anyway, if we could buy it. So, in John's version, this young boy comes up, he's got a basket with 5 loaves of barley bread and 2 fish in it. This apparently already was cooked. And the barley bread is like the poorest bread you can have. That's what people ate, couldn't afford nothing else. It's below rye bread as far as how good and how nutritious it is. So obviously this boy was probably poor, or from a poor family. And it doesn't say if he was taken home to his family or what he was doing with it, but he offers it up apparently. And so in the other Gospels, Jesus tells the disciples to distribute it. In John's Gospel, it makes it read sort of like Jesus did the distributing. So I don't know. I honestly do not know what to take from that. But we know from the story that the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish fed them 5,000 people, and it says everybody got as much as they wanted, which I think is important, or as much as they felt like they needed. So, you know, it wasn't like everybody got one little piece like we do in communion. It was everybody got as much as they needed. And when it was all over, Jesus told his disciples, he said, y'all take some baskets, go out there and gather up whatever might be left. And when they did, it turned out they had 11 baskets of food left over from the one little basket after they fed 5,000 people. And so to all the people, this was another miracle. And according to John, the people got so excited that they were ready to take Jesus and make him be their king and head into Jerusalem. And so Jesus kind of snuck off to himself like he does sometimes, because he understood that the crowd was misinterpreting what was going on here, and that's not what he wanted to happen. So he kind of snuck off to himself until everybody calmed down a little bit, because Jesus' mission, as we know, was not to come and be a political or military king and get the Romans out of Israel, but he was here to be a different kind of king. He was the Messiah, but their definition of Messiah and the way we understand it today was different. To them, the Messiah was, and in their tradition, in their history, the Messiah was the deliverer, and they took it in a political, a human way. This is the one that's going to lead us back to victory, back to where we used to be. But we take it to mean the Messiah was the one who delivered us from our own misery and our own sin. Well, so what is this story supposed to mean? Other than it's a good story to tell little children about how they took that little bit of food and fed all these people, and it apparently just kept multiplying and being enough.
It was one of his miracles that he...
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that to some of those Friday, it was tipping out coleslaw and barbecue and stuff. It seemed like it was never going to go away. Because every time you empty the cooler, somebody slapped another one up there. So it just kept coming. But I think maybe, and the ones who wrote these lessons for us take it the same way, that what Jesus was doing as much as anything was showing his disciples how abundance can come out of scarcity through God's ways of working. I don't think it was intended, and I may be wrong, I'm not sure it was intended to be so much a miracle for the people, other than Jesus saw that they needed to be fed, and so he said, okay, we're going to feed them. But I think the disciples were supposed to get a little bit of instruction from this, that all they could see was, here we got this crowd of people, we ain't got nothing for them to eat, they're going to get hungry and mad, they're going to either leave and go away, or they're going to start a riot, and we're going to get beat up. And that's the only way they could see it, is from the point of view of we ain't got enough. Well, Jesus' point of view was, God always has enough, and then some and plenty left over. And we know that God's grace, God's love for us works that way, that you can't exhaust it. And, you know, we're taught in so many lessons that anything is possible through God's help and through having faith that God will take care of it. I think this is what Jesus was trying to show as much as anything, and I may be way off. But that's what I get from this lesson, that it's if we look at things from a human point of view, there's never enough. And I think about when I was in college, had to take so many humanities, and I took a political science course, just the introductory political science course. And the first day they said, well, what is politics? And the guy said the definition of politics is that there's only so much pie to go around, and politics is the method by which we decide who gets the pie and who gets left out. And that's pretty much probably right. That's the human way of looking at things. Jesus didn't look at things the way we do. He knew what his Father was capable of. And he tried to show, and again, I think a lot of what he did was trying to teach the disciples while he was here so they could carry on afterwards, as much as teaching the people. Because I think he realized the people were not going to be so teachable, because they just couldn't understand what he was about. The disciples had a hard enough time, and they were with him every day. So I think it was God's way of looking at things is there is enough, there's plenty, and I can give out plenty and never exhaust myself. And if we look at things God's way, there is always enough to give out so others' needs can be filled. You know, we try to do that. Most all churches try to do that. We try to do that. We give to others where there's need. And we don't worry about, well, hey, we ain't got enough to do so and so and so, so I don't know what we're going to do. We always, in my experience, if there's a need, we give, and we don't worry about where it's coming from, because if it pleases God, what we're giving, he will make sure there's enough. And I think that's the way all of us need to look at it, and I think most of us probably do look at it that way. We don't say, well, I can't help this family over here, because then I'm going to think it'll be tight on me. We say, okay, here's a need, let's fill it. And God will keep it going and make sure that there's enough for everybody. And I think that's true. I think, you know, the political science people, I guess, they never consider God's abundance in their teaching and the way all that works. They always assume there's never enough, and you got to get your share while you can. You know, that's completely opposite from what God wants us to think. God wants us to think that I have abundance for all, and we just need to make sure that those who can't help themselves get some help. And if you remember, Jesus always harped on the idea that the Pharisees and the Jewish leaders were missing the goal God set for them because they were not looking after the widows, the poor people, the orphans, the slaves, the strangers. They were not looking after those people. And it goes way back to when Moses got the laws from God and laid them out. That was one of the biggest things in those laws was you have to take care of the helpless people before you do anything else. And think back to the Gospels when Jesus was giving his lessons, he was on and on about that. About there is always enough to help those who are desperate and can't help themselves for whatever reason, and then we all still have enough. I think this is a lesson Jesus was trying to teach, but I think maybe he was trying to teach it more to the disciples than to anybody else. And it even says that when the people found out that Jesus had snuck off after this meal, after this feeding, and they realized that he was not going to be the Messiah that they were looking for, a lot of the people just said, well, this ain't going to help us nothing, and they left and did not come back. So I think Jesus knew that the people were not going to get the point. I think he was teaching the disciples as much as anything. Anybody want to add anything different that they might have thought were more than what I had said? I'm just giving what I get from reading and studying these lessons.
To me, this little story is good for children to teach them to share.
It is.
God will provide, and teach them to share regardless of how meager or what small amounts they have, to share with those who don't have.
Yeah, that's true. Midge and I were talking the other day about when she was working in a daycare years ago, how when it was snack time, if you turned, all the little kids got their little plate or whatever kind of snack they had for that day. And she said if some was slower to eat or let their attention drift off, there was always some kid who was going to look over there and say, my plate's empty, but they got some. I'm going to get me some more.
Sneak it from them.
And that's kind of the world's way. If there's any way I can get more than what I got, I'm going to get it. But
You'd
that's...
be surprised how many of them, though, and I don't understand it, I don't know, I don't, but so many kids come to school hungry. And it's like that little advertisement when Mama telling the kids goodbye, have a good day, I love you and all this. And the kids say, well, Mama's so busy working, we don't have nothing to eat till we get to school.
I'm sure that there's many a kid that goes to public school, the only food they probably get just halfway decent food is at school.
But why is that? Why is that? Everybody gets money, everybody's got, there's no need for that.
It really isn't, Sarah. They could
And
buy a box of cereal.
even in here, the Lord was saying, because when they got the free bread and the fish, what else can he give us free? And he didn't like that. That's what he said right here.
That's a very good point.
What else can you give me? Gimme.
That's the difference in the human way of looking at things
Yeah,
and God's way of looking at things. Is we're me first.
yeah.
And it's not that we're so evil, it's just that's human nature. That's why the little children in the daycare, some of them are grabbing from the others whenever
But
they
who
get away
knows
with it.
what the mother told the kid at the door? Well, wait till you get to school and they'll feed you.
I'm sure there's some that do that because
Yeah.
they're abdicating their responsibility as parents. A lot of these kids come from situations where we don't want to imagine.
But I don't
What they
believe that.
live through.
I really don't. All the monies and all the things and all the places that they can go for help, I don't believe there's anybody out there hungry. I really don't.
Well, you look at
Very-
the parents, and they're like me. We ain't go hungry. I don't go hungry.
But where does all this money go that they get it?
They have parties.
Drugs and alcohol are where a lot of
Tell
it
where it all goes.
Well, I know where some of the shops
Yeah.
are drugs and liquors and women and
Yes.
men and
I
cars
can
and
tell you
Exactly.
what,
Most of them have
Cigarettes.
huge
Yeah.
cookouts.
there's a,
Huge cookouts.
there's a
You better
money
believe
price
it.
for all the food vouchers and all that you get,
Yep.
like through the week and everything. There's
That's
a regular cash price,
I
and people
don't
trade them for cash. And so instead of buying food, they're buying more drugs or alcohol or whatever.
And who knows, I've seen them
And-
taking the food and selling it.
Yes,
They do. And
Yeah.
when the COVID started, they started giving out this food up on Raleigh Road, 2 or 3 other places. There were people who were getting it and stocking their houses
Uh-huh.
up and selling it to
Right.
other people.
Who gives that food out? We've seen that, but we didn't know who was doing that.
I don't know the organizations
Is it
that are doing
government
it,
or
but I think at the bottom of it's probably the taxpayer.
government program?
I honestly don't know. I think there was some
You see a lot of
things
nice cars.
like acts involved. I think were involved. I think maybe.
Yeah.
Nice cars.
Yeah.
Nicer mine.
That's where their money goes.
I think the food
To
bank.
buy the
was
baby
involved,
clothes.
Tim, I had an experience that I didn't know exactly what to do with when I was selling tickets. 2 different people bought 2 tickets at the same time and says, give these to somebody that can't afford to buy one. Well, I thought, and I said, who am I going to give it to? Well, I finally ended up, I'm not going to call the names, but I finally give it to a fella that didn't have much income.
Mhm.
And he was mighty grateful to get it. Now, the other 2 I give, well, I'll take them.
Yeah.
Like they were doing you a big favor.
Yeah.
Well,
And I thought that I just couldn't come up with anybody in the Henderson, the local area that I knew
Really needed it.
really,
That's what I'm saying. I don't believe there's anybody that really, really, really needs it.
well, now my personal opinion is some of these children go to school hungry.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
there's
Why?
children that
Parents,
need it
it's the parents' fault.
because nobody at home is looking out for the children.
I was in Walmart day before yesterday. And this couple was at the cash register getting out. And this little girl, she had to be about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 years old, had such a fit. I wanted to smack her butt. She was screaming and hollering and for no reason. And I'm saying, if she gets away with that now, what's she going to do when she gets older?
Well, there are, and I always draw on Midge's experience because she's had a lot of different experience. But she's been a substitute school teacher, and she's come home and upset and talked about children who come. She was an elementary school teacher. Children come to school with the same shirt every day, and it ain't been washed. And they come and they don't know how to use a fork and a spoon, and that's because nobody has
Whose
looked
fault
after.
is that?
It's
Whose
their parents'
fault
fault.
is that?
It's the parent. It's not the kid's fault,
Yeah.
but the kid suffers.
Yeah.
And God, I don't think wants us to let these kids suffer when it ain't their fault. It ain't nothing they can do about it.
That's why he put us here to help them.
I agree.
Tim, when I was in high school and we had our junior, senior supper, whatever you want to call it. Well, the home ec teacher was directing things, and she preached to us beforehand that we were going to learn how to use our table manners and silver and stuff. And before we eat, she went through the knives and the forks and the plates and the saucers, and we didn't have coffee, but she did have them on the table.
Mhm.
But she told us what to do with them, and I was so sure that I knew how to do it, but when she got through talking, I found out there was a whole lot I didn't know.
Yeah.
But we were taught that when we were a junior, and that is when we had our senior one, we didn't. We had a different sponsor.
Right. I think Don Rose can testify. It's a lot of children that the only care they get is at school.
It is.
And
You hide stuff from the others, and the ones that come in hungry, you put them over behind your desk to do some work and give them a ground.
yeah.
That's like a little doggy coming and begging at you.
Yes. I mean, you can tell. Keep belts at school, keep string to hold bridges up.
Yeah. It's sad with all the abundance we have
But they're
today.
taught to go out like that.
No, they're not taught. They just defend for themselves.
Well, yeah, but if your mother and father or somebody don't help you, what are you gonna do? Somebody's gonna take pity on them.
The worst case I ever had was a child that came to school with his stepfather's pants on that he had gotten out of the laundry. He smelled so high with marijuana, I had
Yeah.
to send him out of the room. And he begged me, Miss McGee, please get me in a foster home. Please get me in a foster home. I could have cried.
From his own parents?
Yes. And the only way he got in the foster home was his mama got sick and left the two children. He had a brother 5 years old. Left them at home by themselves, and social service come got them.
Why did they even bother having children?
Money, government money. It's whew, if you see some of it.
Yeah, but they're not doing the job that they're getting paid for.
Well,
Well, that
let's
don't
not
matter.
get away from that.
If you can get paid and don't do the job, you're ahead of the game.
Of course. Why do you think everybody's sitting home now?
You can turn that off.
I'll fix it too. Because we're running out short on time. But thank you everybody for listening in, and thank y'all for a good lesson. It's always a good lesson to me when everybody gets talking about the subject. And then I can be quiet.
No, then they
But-
turn us off.
No. All right, well, I'm going to stop it. Y'all come back next week. Thank you.